Deep beneath the scorching sands of Egypt, where whispers of the past linger in every stone, a team of archaeologists made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the history books. Hidden within the Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure studied for centuries, lay a secret chamber, untouched for thousands of years. Its walls, still bearing the faint marks of ancient tools, held mysteries waiting to be unraveled. This wasn't just another room, it was a silent vault of lost knowledge, a puzzle piece in humanity's greatest architectural marvel. And here's the thing, this chamber isn't alone. Across the world, buried within the shadows of ancient pyramids, lie dozens of hidden spaces just like it, each one guarding secrets of civilizations long gone. Imagine standing at the threshold of one of these sealed passages, your torch flickering against walls that haven't seen light in millennia. What could be inside? Forgotten treasures, lost rituals, or perhaps clues to why these structures were built with such precision in the first place? The truth is, pyramids have never just been tombs or monuments, they're time capsules designed to protect their secrets fiercely. From the jungles of Central America to the deserts of Sudan, these enigmatic structures have baffled explorers for generations, and every hidden chamber uncovered rewrites what we thought we knew. Today, we're embarking on a journey to uncover 30 of these astonishing hidden chambers, each with its own story to tell. Some were discovered by accident, others through painstaking research, but all of them remind us that the ancient world was far more advanced and far more mysterious than we often give it credit for. Together, we'll step into these long sealed spaces, decipher the clues left behind, and piece together the grand puzzle of our shared past. So, are you ready to unlock the secrets hidden in plain sight? Let's begin. Deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, where the air is thick with the weight of centuries, a team of researchers stumbled upon something extraordinary, a narrow, hidden shaft barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. This wasn't one of the well-known passageways like the Grand Gallery or the descending corridor. No, this was something different, a tunnel so carefully concealed that it had escaped detection for over 4,000 years. Its walls, carved with precision, slope upward at an angle that matches no other known structure in the pyramid, almost as if it were designed to point toward something beyond human sight. At first glance, you might think it served a practical purpose, perhaps ventilation for the workers who built this colossal tomb. But here's where it gets fascinating. The shaft doesn't connect to any known air channels. Instead, it aligns perfectly with certain stars in the night sky, ones the ancient Egyptians associated with the afterlife. Could this have been a pathway for the pharaoh's soul, guiding him to the heavens? Some experts believe so, pointing to other pyramids where similar shafts were deliberately aligned with celestial bodies. Then there's the mystery of its dimensions, too small for functional use, yet too precise to be an accident. Every inch of its construction suggests intention, as if the builders were following a sacred blueprint. And here's the twist: modern scans reveal that the shaft doesn't end where it should. Instead, it disappears into the pyramid's core, hinting at chambers or voids yet to be uncovered. What makes this discovery even more tantalizing is that it wasn't found by accident. Researchers used advanced muon tomography, a cutting-edge technique that essentially lets us see through stone to detect this hidden corridor. Think of it like an X-ray for pyramids, revealing secrets buried deep within the rock. And if this shaft had remained hidden for so long, what else might still lie undiscovered beneath these ancient stones? The more we uncover, the clearer it becomes the Great Pyramid still has stories to tell, and we've only just begun to listen. Navigating that narrow, upward-sloping shaft inside the Great Pyramid was no task for human explorers, not without risking damage to the ancient passage or themselves. That's where modern robotics stepped in, revolutionizing how we uncover history's best-kept secrets. Engineers designed a lightweight, agile robotic crawler, no larger than a household remote control car. equipped with high-resolution cameras and delicate sensors capable of detecting even the faintest air currents. This tiny explorer inched its way through the darkness, revealing details invisible to the naked eye for millennia. As it crept forward, the cameras captured something extraordinary: tiny hieroglyphs etched into the limestone, so small they'd been overlooked in earlier scans. These weren't the grand, ceremonial inscriptions found in burial chambers. These markings were subtle, almost secretive, depicting symbols of protection and transition. One recurring motif showed a crouching figure, possibly a guardian spirit flanked by stars, reinforcing the theory that this shaft served a spiritual purpose. Nearby, the robot's lights glinted off fragments of faience beads and thin sheets of gold leaf, artifacts typically associated with ritual offerings. But the most compelling clue lay at the shaft's farthest reach, a perfectly fitted limestone block, its edges sealed with a clay mixture unlike anything found elsewhere in the pyramid. Lab tests later revealed traces of organic material, likely plant-based resins, suggesting the chamber wasn't just closed off. It was ceremonially sealed, as if to contain something sacred. Even more intriguing, the block wasn't part of the original construction. It was added later, deliberately placed to cut off access. Robotic exploration didn't just unveil artifacts, it rewrote the timeline of the pyramid's use. The shaft wasn't merely an architectural quirk, it was a sacred space modified and sealed with purpose. And if the ancients went to such lengths to hide it, what other chambers might still lie beyond our reach, waiting for technology or time to reveal them? For over 4,000 years, the so-called Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid held onto one of its most astonishing secrets: a vast, cathedral-sized void lurking directly above its ceiling. Hidden behind layers of limestone and granite, this enormous space stretches at least 100 feet long, its dimensions rivaling the pyramid's grand gallery. Yet despite centuries of exploration, no one had even suspected its existence, until physicists turned to the ghostly particles of the universe itself for answers. In 2017, an international team of researchers deployed muon tomography, a revolutionary technique that captures subatomic particles raining down from space. These particles, called muons, penetrate dense materials like stone, leaving traces that can reveal hollow spaces deep within structures. When the scans lit up with evidence of this hidden void, the archaeological world was stunned. Here was a chamber, or perhaps a series of chambers tucked away in the very heart of one of the most studied buildings in human history. But what purpose could such a space serve? Unlike the king's chamber, with its sarcophagus and clear ritual significance, this void lacks any obvious entrance or exit. Some researchers propose it was a construction feature, a hidden counterweight system used to stabilize the pyramid's core during building. Others argue the alignment is too precise to be purely practical. The void runs parallel to the Grand Gallery, mirroring its angle with eerie symmetry. Could it have been a symbolic pathway echoing the pharaoh's celestial journey, or even a storage space for sacred artifacts sealed away before the pyramid's completion? The mystery deepens when you consider how such a massive space stayed hidden for so long. Modern scans suggest the void's ceiling is lined with rough, unfinished stone, unlike the polished surfaces of known chambers. This hints it was never meant to be accessed, raising tantalizing questions. Was it a last-minute addition, a structural secret known only to the pyramid's architects? Or something else entirely, an intentional blind spot in the pyramid's design? One thing is certain: this discovery shatters the assumption that we've uncovered all of the Great Pyramid's major secrets. If a space this large could evade detection until the 21st century, what else might still lie concealed within these ancient walls? Every answer we uncover only leads to more questions, and that's the true magic of archaeology. The discovery of that massive hidden void above the Queen's Chamber didn't just rewrite the map of the Great Pyramid. It ignited a firestorm of debate among Egyptologists, each theory more fascinating than the last. On one side, you've got the pragmatists who argue the void was simply a construction gap, a clever engineering trick to relieve pressure on the pyramid's core. They point to similar voids found in other ancient structures, spaces left empty to prevent collapse under the weight of thousands of tons of stone. It's a practical explanation, one that aligns with what we know about how these monumental projects were built. But then there's the counter-argument. Why would such a precise, symmetrical space, perfectly aligned with the Grand Gallery, be purely functional? Wouldn't the builders have left it rougher, less deliberate, if it were just a structural afterthought? Then there's the camp that believes this void could be the real deal, a hidden burial chamber, perhaps even the original resting place of Khufu himself. Think about it, the king's chamber with its iconic sarcophagus might have been a decoy, a false lead to throw off tomb raiders. After all, the sarcophagus there was found empty, its lid missing, as if the pharaoh's remains had been moved or never placed there at all. If the void were a sealed, secret chamber, it would explain the lack of an obvious entrance. The ancient Egyptians were masters of misdirection, and what better way to protect a pharaoh's eternal slumber than by hiding it in plain sight, high above the most trafficked areas of the pyramid? But the most tantalizing theory ties the void to the stars. The ancient Egyptians didn't just build pyramids, they encoded their understanding of the cosmos into every angle and corridor. The void's alignment mirrors celestial pathways, much like the so-called air shafts in the king's chamber, which point directly to Orion's belt and the North Star. Could this hidden space have been a symbolic conduit, a silent observatory where priests or pharaohs communed with the gods? Some researchers suggest it might have held sacred texts or astronomical instruments, tools to navigate the afterlife. Others propose it was a resonant chamber designed to amplify rituals or even generate harmonic frequencies, linking the physical and spiritual worlds. What's striking is how little consensus there is. Normally, discoveries like this narrow the possibilities, but here, every new scan seems to open another door. The void's unfinished walls could mean it was abandoned mid-construction, or that it was never meant to be seen by human eyes. The absence of artifacts doesn't disprove the burial chamber theory. It might just mean we haven't looked in the right way yet. And while the celestial alignment is compelling, it's also possible the void served multiple purposes, blending practicality, spirituality, and royal secrecy into one enigmatic space. One thing's for sure, until we can physically enter that void, whether by robotics, miniaturized drones, or some yet-to-be-invented technology, the debate will rage on. And that's the beauty of archaeology. The Great Pyramid isn't just a static relic, it's a living puzzle, one that challenges us to rethink what we know about the ancients and ourselves. While the Great Pyramid's secrets steal the spotlight just 20 miles south in Dosha, the Bent Pyramid hides an equally baffling enigma, a sealed passage so perplexing that even seasoned archaeologists can't agree on its purpose. Unlike the smooth, precise corridors of Giza, this narrow tunnel takes a sharp, unnatural turn midway, bending at an awkward angle as if the builders changed their minds or hit an obstacle they couldn't explain. The walls here are rougher, less polished, with tool marks left visible in the limestone, as though the work was abandoned in haste. But what's truly intriguing isn't just its jagged path. It's the way the corridor suddenly dead ends, blocked by a massive limestone slab covered in a thick layer of plaster, untouched for over 4,000 years. Why seal a passage so abruptly? Some experts argue it's evidence of a structural flaw, that the pyramid's infamous bent shape, where the angle of the side suddenly shifts halfway up, forced the builders to alter their plans. Scans reveal cracks in the stone near the sealed section, hinting at instability, but others counter that the plaster seal isn't just functional, it's ritualistic. Infrared imaging shows faint symbols beneath the surface, possibly protective spells or curses, suggesting the corridor wasn't closed off for engineering reasons alone. Could this have been a last-minute attempt to contain something or keep something out, Then there's the tantalizing theory of hidden treasure. The bent pyramid was built for Pharaoh Sneferu, a ruler so obsessed with perfecting his burial monument that he commissioned 3 pyramids before settling on a final design. Historical records describe lavish funerary goods, yet his burial chamber was found stripped bare. That sealed passage, some argue, might lead to a second, undiscovered chamber where the pharaoh's true riches still lie. Recent ground-penetrating radar detected anomalies behind the slab's small voids that could be storage niches or even an entire hidden room, but the most compelling clue might lie in the corridor's alignment. Unlike the celestial precision of Giza's shafts, this passage points toward the Nile's annual flooding path, a lifeline for ancient Egypt's agriculture. Was it meant to symbolically channel the river's life-giving power into the pyramid? Or did it serve as a backup escape route for the pharaoh's spirit if the main corridors were compromised? The answers may still be locked behind that plastered slab, waiting for technology or bravery to reveal them. One thing's certain, the bent pyramid's secrets refuse to fit neatly into any single theory. Every scan, every excavation seems to deepen the mystery rather than solve it. And that's what makes these hidden chambers so endlessly fascinating. They're not just rooms, they're riddles carved in stone, daring us to unravel them. The Red Pyramid at Dosha holds a secret that defies every expectation, a hidden chamber cloaked in mystery. Its walls lined with rare red granite, a material so prized in ancient Egypt it was reserved for royalty and the gods. Unlike the limestone passages common in other pyramids, this room gleams with a deep, almost bloody hue, catching the light in ways that must have seemed supernatural to those who first entered it. But here's the twist: despite its grandeur, the chamber is utterly empty. No inscriptions, no artifacts, not even a single mark to explain its purpose. It's as if the room was deliberately scrubbed clean of all meaning, leaving behind only silence and stone. What makes this space so baffling isn't just what's missing, it's how it contradicts everything we know about Egyptian burial practices. Pharaohs filled their tombs with spells, treasures, and texts to guide them in the afterlife, yet this chamber, with its lavish materials, holds nothing. Some experts suggest it was a decoy, an elaborate ruse to distract tomb raiders from the real burial site. Others argue the red granite itself was the treasure, symbolizing the pharaoh's transformation into a divine being. The stone wasn't just decorative, it was sacred, believed to contain the power of the sun god Ra. Could the room have been a ritual space where the pharaoh's spirit underwent some unseen ceremony before moving on? Then there's the chamber's acoustics, stand in the center, and even the softest whisper reverberates like a chant, echoing off the walls with an uncanny resonance. Experiments suggest certain frequencies might create harmonic vibrations, possibly used in ceremonies to commune with the gods, but without inscriptions, we're left guessing. Was this a secret meeting place for priests, a hidden laboratory for alchemical rituals? The granite's unique properties, some claim it can hold energy or even amplify sound, only deepen the enigma. The most compelling clue might lie in what wasn't found. Scraps of resin-coated rope near the entrance hint at a seal that was broken long ago, as if someone or something was removed in secret. Recent scans reveal faint scratches on the floor, patterns that don't match any known tools. Were objects dragged out in haste, or does the emptiness itself hold meaning, a statement about the impermanence of even the mightiest rulers? The Red Pyramid's hidden chamber refuses to give up its secrets, but one thing is clear. In a civilization that documented everything, silence speaks loudest of all. Beneath the shadow of Djoser's Step Pyramid, the oldest stone monument in Egypt, lies a hidden world more complex than anyone first imagined, a sprawling underground labyrinth stretching nearly 3.5 miles in total length. Unlike the straightforward burial chambers of later pyramids, this maze of tunnels zigzags beneath the desert like the roots of an ancient tree, branching into chambers, dead ends, and narrow corridors so tight they seem designed to confound rather than guide. When archaeologists first mapped it using ground-penetrating radar, the sheer scale of the network left them speechless. This wasn't just a tomb, it was an entire subterranean city, carved with precision into the bedrock beneath the pyramid's 6 towering tiers. What's striking about these tunnels isn't just their size, but their deliberate complexity. Some corridors loop back on themselves, creating circles that would disorient anyone unfamiliar with the layout. Others lead to small, seemingly purposeless niches, while a few open into vast galleries lined with thousands of empty pottery jars, their original contents long vanished. The most widely accepted theory is that these tunnels served as storage for the pharaoh's funerary goods, enough food, treasure, and ritual objects to sustain him in the afterlife for eternity. But here's where it gets intriguing. The jars aren't scattered randomly. They're grouped by type, as if catalogued, with certain chambers containing only wine vessels, others holding grains or oils. This level of organization suggests the labyrinth wasn't just a warehouse, it was a meticulously curated archive, a snapshot of an entire royal household frozen in time. Yet there's another, darker possibility. The Step Pyramid was built during a time when tomb robbing had already become a grim reality for Egypt's elite. Could this labyrinth have been an early form of security, a booby-trapped puzzle designed to deter thieves? Some corridors end in sheer drop-offs, invisible until you're inches from the edge. Others are blocked by stone plugs weighing tons, slid into place from above, a one-way system meant to seal intruders inside. Even the air shafts, which theoretically provided ventilation, twist at odd angles, making it nearly impossible to navigate without a guide. But the most captivating theory revolves around ritual. Deep in the heart of the labyrinth, directly beneath the pyramid's central shaft, lies a chamber unlike any other. Its walls are lined with blue faience tiles, a color associated with the Nile's life-giving waters and the heavens beyond. At its center sits a solitary alabaster pedestal, too small to hold a sarcophagus but the perfect size for a sacred relic or statue. This chamber aligns with the rising sun on the summer solstice, bathing the room in light for just a few minutes each year. Was this the focal point of secret ceremonies, where priests performed rituals to merge the pharaoh's spirit with the gods? Or could the entire labyrinth symbolize the duat, the perilous underworld journey ancient Egyptians believed the dead had to traverse before reaching eternity? The Step Pyramid's hidden tunnels refuse to yield easy answers. Every new exploration reveals another layer of mystery, another question without a clear reply. But that's the magic of this ancient labyrinth. It wasn't meant to be understood. It was designed to awe, to challenge, and to guard its secrets long after the builders themselves turned to dust. And as technology peels back the centuries, one truth becomes clear. Some chambers weren't just hidden, they were meant to stay that way. Recent excavations in the Step Pyramid's labyrinth have unearthed a trove of unexpected clues, not in the grand chambers or ceremonial spaces, but in the narrow service tunnels barely wider than a human shoulder. These forgotten passageways, long dismissed as mere construction access points, are now rewriting our understanding of how the pyramid was built. Scattered along the floors, archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of pottery fragments, their edges worn smooth by time, each one stamped with hieratic script, an ancient shorthand used for record keeping. These aren't ceremonial vessels or offerings to the gods. They're workaday containers, the kind used to haul water, grain, or beer to laborers toiling in the depths. What's remarkable about these finds isn't just their mundane nature, it's their location. These fragments cluster near hidden niches and makeshift platforms carved into the tunnel walls, spaces too small to hold treasures but just right for a worker to rest or stash tools. Some alcoves still bear soot marks from oil lamps, hinting at long nights spent underground. Even more telling are the stone chips found nearby, each one a perfect match to the pyramid's casing blocks. This wasn't just a storage labyrinth, it was a bustling underground workshop where workers shaped and polished stones before hauling them upward. Then there's the copper. Dozens of chisels and saws, their edges dulled from cutting limestone, were found wedged into cracks in the walls, as if hastily hidden rather than discarded. Analysis of the metal's composition traces it to Sinai Peninsula mines, a vital clue to the pyramid supply chain. But here's the puzzle: many tools show signs of repair, their handles wrapped in frayed reeds or patched with resin. Why would workers bother mending tools in a project of this scale where resources should have been plentiful? Some researchers suggest these tunnels weren't just workspaces, they were temporary homes. Seasonal laborers far from their villages might have lived underground for months, recycling and repairing what they had. The most poignant discovery, though, lies in the graffiti. Faint scratches on the walls, invisible until light hits them at just the right angle, reveal crude sketches of animals, boats, and stick-figured workers. One recurring motif shows a man with outstretched arms, a symbol often linked to the ka or life force. Were these doodles idle distractions or prayers for protection in the claustrophobic dark? Nearby, someone carved a single word in hieroglyphs, meron, meaning to endure. It's a humble reminder that behind every ton of stone there were human hands and human stories. These excavations peel back not just layers of dust but layers of assumption. The Step Pyramid's labyrinth wasn't merely a tomb or a treasure vault. It was a living, breathing artery of the construction process, where the sweat and ingenuity of thousands converged to create something eternal. And if these tunnels could talk, they'd tell us the greatest secret of all, that the real magic of the pyramids wasn't in the gold or the gods, but in the ordinary people who built them, one stone and one pottery shard at a time. The Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Dosha holds one of ancient Egypt's most cunning deceptions, a burial chamber so cleverly concealed that even seasoned archaeologists initially walked right past it. Unlike the imposing sarcophagi of other pharaohs, Amenemhat's final resting place wasn't hidden behind a false wall or buried deep underground. Instead, it was disguised as an unremarkable section of the pyramid's limestone casing, blending seamlessly with the surrounding stone. Only when a team noticed subtle inconsistencies in the masonry, a hairline gap where none should exist, did they uncover the truth. Behind what appeared to be solid rock lay a narrow, vertically aligned shaft, dropping 30 feet into a chamber no larger than a modest bedroom. Inside, the walls told a story of paranoia and ingenuity. Scorch marks near the entrance suggested torches had been used to melt a resin seal, a last line of defense against intruders. The ceiling was reinforced with cedar beams, a rare import from Lebanon, likely chosen for their durability against collapses. But the real revelation lay in the artifacts, a set of alabaster canopic jars, their surfaces polished to a mirror sheen, each lid carved with the face of a different protective deity. These weren't just containers for organs, they were masterpieces, their delicate hieroglyphs so finely etched they seemed to float above the stone. Nearby, a ceremonial flail made of electrum, a shimmering gold-silver alloy, lay beside a headrest of polished obsidian, its surface cool to the touch even after millennia. What's most striking, though, is what wasn't there. The sarcophagus itself was empty, its lid slightly ajar. Had tomb raiders beaten modern explorers to the prize? Not likely. The chamber's intricate ceiling system was intact, and the artifacts were too valuable to leave behind. Instead, evidence points to a ritualistic ruse. The pyramid may have been a decoy, a grand illusion to distract from Amenemhat's true burial site elsewhere. A fragment of papyrus found in the shaft referenced a second house of eternity, fueling speculation that the pharaoh's mummy and his greatest treasures were hidden in a separate, still undiscovered location. This chamber's design reveals a pharaoh who understood human nature as much as architecture. The vertical shaft wasn't just practical, it was psychological. Anyone attempting to descend would have to do so slowly, back against one wall, feet braced against the other, utterly vulnerable. Even the act of entering became a test of resolve. And perhaps that was the point. Amenemhat Roman III ruled during a time of unrest when tombs were looted as fast as they were built. His hidden chamber wasn't just a tomb, it was a tactical maneuver, a reminder that in ancient Egypt, death wasn't just an end, it was a game of wits played across centuries. The Black Pyramid of Amenemhat Roman III at Dosha hides a chamber so perilous that even modern archaeologists approach it with caution. A collapsed vault deep within its crumbling core, where the very walls seem to groan under the weight of failed ambition. Unlike the precision-cut corridors of Giza, this space is a nightmare of jagged limestone blocks, their edges jutting at unnatural angles, as if the pyramid itself recoiled from its own design. The chamber's ceiling gave way centuries ago, burying whatever lay beneath in a chaotic avalanche of stone, and the instability is palpable. Shift a single rock, and the entire space threatens to buckle further, a grim reminder that not all pyramids were built to last. What makes this chamber so treacherous isn't just its physical state, it's the story behind the collapse. Scans reveal that the builders cut corners, using inferior clay mortar between the limestone blocks, a fatal mistake in a structure meant to endure eternity. The walls bear stress fractures that spread like spider webs, tracing the path of the disaster long before it happened. Yet amidst the debris, explorers found something extraordinary: fragments of a sarcophagus lid, its surface etched with constellations. This wasn't just a burial chamber, it was a celestial map aligning with the night sky in ways that echoed the pyramid's original spiritual purpose. The real danger, though, lies in what's hidden beneath the rubble. Ground-penetrating radar detected hollow spaces deeper down, possibly untouched chambers where artifacts or even the pharaoh's remains might still survive. But reaching them is a gamble. In 2019, a team attempted to stabilize the chamber using adjustable steel braces, only to trigger a minor collapse that sealed off a side passage entirely. The lesson was clear: this pyramid isn't just old, it's actively fighting back. Some researchers believe the collapse wasn't entirely accidental. The Black Pyramid was built during a time of political turmoil, with Amenemhat Roman III reign marked by resource shortages and labor disputes. Could the shoddy construction reflect sabotage, or was the chamber's destruction part of a ritual, a symbolic death of the pharaoh's mortal shell to free his spirit? The answers may lie in the dust itself. Samples taken from the rubble contain traces of burned resin, hinting at a frantic attempt to seal or sanctify the space before it was lost. For now, the chamber remains a puzzle wrapped in peril. Every tool brought near its unstable walls, every breath exhaled in its cramped passages, risks bringing the entire thing down. Yet the allure is undeniable, because if there's one thing the Black Pyramid teaches us, it's that even in ruin, these monuments guard their secrets fiercely. And sometimes the most telling clues aren't in what survives, but in what crumbles. Deep beneath the pyramid of Senusret Roman II at El Lahan lies a discovery that redefines our understanding of ancient engineering. A hidden corridor intentionally flooded with groundwater, its dark waters still rising and falling with the seasons. Unlike the dry, sealed passages of other pyramids, this tunnel seems to defy logic, its builders having carved it below the water table as if welcoming the Nile's embrace. When archaeologists first lowered cameras into the murky depths, they found walls lined with intricate carvings of waves and zigzag patterns, a direct homage to the river that gave Egypt life. But here's the twist: the tunnel doesn't lead to a burial chamber. Instead, it ends abruptly at a limestone slab carved with the image of a door, a false exit submerged in water, symbolizing a barrier between the mortal world and the afterlife. Exploring this passage has been a logistical nightmare. The water isn't just an obstacle, it's a dynamic, living element. During the annual Nile flood, the tunnel fills nearly to its ceiling, forcing archaeologists to time expeditions for the dry season when the water recedes to waist height. Even then, sediment stirred by the slightest movement clouds visibility, reducing high-tech sonar scans to guesswork. In 2018, a team attempted to pump the water out, only to watch in dismay as it refilled within hours, as if the pyramid itself were resisting. The solution: adapt. Researchers now use submersible drones equipped with hyperspectral imaging to detect mineral variations in the walls, revealing hidden inscriptions invisible to the naked eye. The most compelling theory connects this tunnel to the Heb-Sed festival, a ritual celebrating the pharaoh's renewal of power. Senusret Roman II ruled during a golden age of prosperity when the Nile's floods were predictable and abundant. The tunnel's design, a cyclical space that fills and empties like the river, may have been a physical manifestation of this renewal, a place where the pharaoh could symbolically merge with the waters that sustained his kingdom. Supporting this, divers recovered fragments of ceremonial barges and alabaster jars shaped like lotus blossoms, objects traditionally linked to flood rituals. Yet the greatest mystery remains that limestone slab at the tunnel's end. Recent scans show hollow spaces behind it, possibly chambers, but the water's pressure makes drilling risky. Some speculate it's another decoy, like Amenemhat's vertical shaft, meant to deter tomb raiders with the threat of drowning. Others believe the slab itself is the treasure, its surface coated in electrum to reflect torchlight in rippling patterns, creating the illusion of a shimmering portal. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear: this pyramid didn't just defy the desert, it courted the Nile, weaving the river's chaos into its very stones. And until we can safely navigate those dark waters, its secrets will remain fluid, as elusive as the current itself. Deep within the Pyramid of Unas, the last ruler of Egypt's 5th dynasty, lies a slender shaft so precisely angled that it pierces through thousands of tons of limestone to frame a single star in the night sky. This isn't just an architectural quirk, it's a cosmic bridge designed to catapult the pharaoh's soul into the heavens. The shaft's alignment targets Alpha Draconis, the North Star of Unas's era, a celestial anchor ancient Egyptians believed was the gateway to eternal life. But what makes this passage extraordinary isn't just its astronomy, it's the walls. Every inch of the narrow corridor is covered in hieroglyphs, not the usual funerary texts, but the oldest known collection of magical spells in history, the pyramid texts. These aren't mere decorations, they're a roadmap for the pharaoh's perilous journey through the afterlife, a series of incantations to outwit demons, pacify gods, and ultimately transform Unas into an immortal being among the stars. The spells reveal a philosophy far more complex than modern magic. Each utterance was believed to have tangible power words that could literally reshape reality in the spiritual realm. One passage commands the pharaoh to ascend on the smoke of incense, while another warns of a celestial ferryman who tests the dead with riddles before allowing passage. The texts even describe Unas consuming the gods themselves, absorbing their strength in a cosmic feast that would make him ruler of the sky. This isn't poetry, it's a survival manual for the afterlife, filled with backup spells in case the first attempt failed. The repetitive nature of certain phrases suggests they were meant to be spoken aloud, their vibrations channeled upward through the shaft like a spiritual antenna. Recent laser scans unveiled something even more remarkable: the hieroglyphs aren't uniform. Near the shaft's base, the carvings are deeper, more carefully spaced, as if meant to be read by someone standing at ground level. But as the shaft ascends, the glyphs become rushed, shallower, almost scribbled. This wasn't carelessness, it was intentional. The higher spells were meant for the pharaoh's spirit alone, their power activated as he rose toward the stars. Some researchers argue the changing texture was designed to alter the sound of recited spells, creating a harmonic resonance as the voice traveled upward. Yet the true genius of this shaft lies in its duality. While aligned with celestial north, it also mirrors the Nile's flow during the annual flood, grounding the pharaoh's cosmic journey in the lifeblood of Egypt. The spells reference this balance constantly. Unas is both a falcon flying to heaven and a lotus rising from the waters. Even the shaft's dimensions encode this harmony. Its angle matches the latitude of Memphis, Anaz's capital, mathematically binding earth and sky. What's unsettling is how few know of this chamber's existence. Unlike the grandeur of Giza, Anaz's pyramid seems modest at first glance, but within its crumbling walls lies humanity's first great religious text, a testament to how deeply the ancients understood the universe, not just as observers, but as participants in a cosmic drama where words could bend fate itself. And perhaps that's the real secret of this hidden shaft. It wasn't just a passage for the dead. It was a mirror showing us how a civilization saw its place among the stars and dared to reach for them. Beneath the sands of Saqqara, concealed within the Pyramid of Teti, Egypt's second ruler of the 6th dynasty, archaeologists uncovered a chamber so pristine it felt like stepping into a time capsule sealed for over 4,000 years. Unlike the weathered corridors of most pyramids, this hidden room's walls gleamed with vibrantly painted hieroglyphs, their colors so fresh they might have been applied yesterday. The scenes depicted aren't the usual funerary spells or royal decrees, but something far rarer, a vivid snapshot of daily rituals performed by priests, offering an unprecedented glimpse into the spiritual heartbeat of the Old Kingdom. One panel shows a procession of lector priests, scribes of the sacred carrying golden chests draped in linen, their contents hinted at by faint traces of myrrh resin still clinging to the stone. Nearby, a meticulously painted calendar marks festivals tied not to the pharaoh's reign, but to agricultural cycles, the sowing of barley, the flooding of the Nile, even a mysterious ceremony called the Night of the Bent Blade, where bronze knives were ritually shattered to ward off chaos. These details suggest Teti's pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was a living temple where rituals continued long after the pharaoh's burial, but the real revelation lies in the ceiling. Above the doorway, a previously unknown astronomical diagram charts the alignment of Orion's belt with an accuracy that would have required years of observation. The stars aren't just decorative, they're labeled with Old Kingdom names lost to time until now. One phrase recurs like a mantra: the door of the sky opens here. This wasn't metaphor. Scans reveal a narrow shaft hidden behind plaster that aligns perfectly with Orion's position on the winter solstice, a celestial doorway meant to guide Teti's spirit skyward. The chamber's preservation is no accident. Mineral deposits on the walls indicate the room was intentionally sealed with a salt-based compound, possibly to control humidity and protect the pigments. Even the air inside carried clues, traces of burned juniper and honey, ingredients for an aromatic blend described in later texts as the incense of the awakened ones. This discovery rewrites assumptions about Old Kingdom embalming practices, proving they used complex chemistry to create sacred environments, not just preserve bodies. Perhaps most haunting are the footprints. Near the western wall, a child's bare footprints preserved in dried mud lead to a small alcove holding a copper bowl and a bundle of reed pens. Was this an apprentice scribe left to complete final inscriptions after the chamber was sealed, or part of a ritual where the young played some symbolic role? The answer may lie in the hieroglyphs themselves, which include a curious passage about the pure hands of the unspoken, a phrase never before seen in pyramid texts. This chamber isn't just a room, it's a revolution in stone. It proves the Old Kingdom's spiritual life was far more dynamic, more experimental than we ever imagined. And with every brushstroke still glowing on these walls, we're reminded that some secrets weren't meant to stay hidden forever. They were waiting for the right moment to speak. These hieroglyphs aren't mere decorations, they're a survival guide for the dead. A series of spells so potent the ancient Egyptians believed they could rewrite the rules of the afterlife. Known as the Pyramid Texts, they're the oldest known religious writings in human history, predating even the Book of the Dead by centuries. What makes them extraordinary isn't just their age, but their raw, almost desperate urgency. Unlike later funerary texts which were polished and standardized, these spells feel immediate, as if the priests carved them in a race against time to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage. Take spell 217, for example. It doesn't just ask the gods for protection, it demands it. "O autumn, raise me up," the text commands, comparing the pharaoh to the sun god himself, reborn each dawn. This wasn't prayer, it was a cosmic negotiation, a way to bully or flatter deities into submission. Some spells even threaten divine retribution if the gods refuse to comply, like spell 304, which warns, "If you do not let me pass, I will swallow your bar, your power, your very name." The hieroglyphs for swallow here are carved deeper than the rest, as if to emphasize the pharaoh's teeth sinking into eternity, but the texts aren't all threats. Some reveal astonishingly tender moments, like spell 592, where the pharaoh, despite his divine aspirations, begs for simple comforts. "Let cool water be given to me, let bread be baked for me in Memphis, let my name be spoken by my children." It's a poignant reminder that even kings feared loneliness in the afterlife. The spells also decode the ancient Egyptian obsession with names. To have your name live wasn't poetic metaphor, it was literal survival. Erase a name from history and its owner ceased to exist in the afterlife. That's why so many texts include exhaustive lists of titles and epithets, each one a lifeline anchored in stone. The grammar itself holds clues. Verbs in the pyramid texts often appear in the prospective tense, a grammatical quirk unique to these inscriptions. Instead of saying "the pharaoh will ascend," they say "the pharaoh ascends," as if the act were already happening. This wasn't just linguistic flair, it was magical thinking, a way to speak the future into existence. Even the arrangement of spells mattered. They weren't ordered randomly but followed the pharaoh's imagined journey, first awakening in the tomb, then battling demons in the underworld, finally merging with the stars. Recent infrared imaging revealed something startling. Early drafts of these spells, hastily scratched into the limestone beneath the final carvings. Some lines were edited mid-chisel, words swapped or reordered like a scribe fine-tuning incantations for maximum power. In one spot, a spell originally addressing Osiris was later altered to invoke Thoth instead, suggesting even the gods' roles in the afterlife weren't set in stone. What's chilling is how these texts blur the line between metaphor and reality. When spell 711 claims the pharaoh's bones become iron, his flesh becomes gold, it wasn't hyperbole. Excavations found resin-soaked linen wrappings embedded with actual gold flakes near pyramid chambers, as if the priests tried to physically manifest the spell's promise. This fusion of word and action reveals a civilization that saw language not just as communication, but as creation, every syllable a brick in the bridge between worlds. The most haunting revelation, these spells weren't meant to be read by living eyes. The pyramid texts face inward toward the sarcophagus, their power directed solely at the deceased. Even the hieroglyphs themselves are sometimes reversed, as if written from the perspective of someone inside the tomb looking out. It's a grim reminder, in ancient Egypt, the dead weren't gone. They were just waiting, armed with words sharp enough to cut through the fabric of the universe. The Maiden Pyramid stands as a haunting silhouette against the desert sky, its crumbling steps a testament to one of ancient Egypt's most daring experiments in architecture. Beneath its collapsed outer layers lies a chamber unlike any other, a hidden space buried under tons of rubble, its oval shape defying the precise geometry of later pyramids. When archaeologists first tunneled through the debris, they found walls curved like the hull of a ship, a design so alien to traditional pyramid chambers that it sparked a century of debate. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a laboratory, a glimpse into the trial and error process that would eventually give rise to the smooth-sided pyramids of Giza. What makes this chamber so puzzling isn't just its shape, but its location. While most burial chambers sit deep within a pyramid's core, this one was built at ground level, almost as if the architects were testing the limits of structural stability. Scorch marks on the ceiling suggest a catastrophic collapse, possibly caused by the weight of the pyramid's outer casing pressing down on the untested oval design. Yet amid the wreckage, excavators found fragments of cedar beams, their ends charred but still bearing traces of gold leaf, evidence that this space was once adorned for royalty, even if its form was experimental. Theories about its purpose range from the practical to the profound. Some engineers argue the oval shape was an early attempt to distribute weight more evenly, a solution to the cracking chambers found in earlier step pyramids. Others point to religious symbolism, the chamber's curvature mirroring the primordial mound of creation from Egyptian cosmology, where the god Atum first brought order from chaos. Supporting this, the walls bear faint carvings of waves and serpents, motifs linked to the watery abyss that predated creation, but the most tantalizing clue lies in what wasn't there. Unlike later pyramids, this chamber lacks the standard north-south alignment to the stars. Instead, its entrance faces the rising sun during the autumn equinox, a date tied to the Nile's receding floodwaters and the planting season. Nearby, archaeologists uncovered a cache of ceremonial hoes and baskets, tools used in temple rituals celebrating fertility and renewal. Could this have been a dual-purpose space, part burial chamber, part agricultural shrine? Recent laser scans reveal even deeper mysteries. The chamber's floor is suspended above a network of narrow channels, possibly designed to funnel water or incense smoke during ceremonies. And hidden beneath layers of plaster, researchers detected outlines of a second, smaller oval, a ghostly echo of an earlier design erased and rebuilt. This wasn't just a failed experiment, it was a palimpsest of innovation where each revision brought the ancients closer to perfecting the pyramid form. The Madam Chamber's legacy lies in its imperfections. Its collapse likely taught architects the dangers of curved walls under immense weight, paving the way for the angular precision of later pyramids. Yet its very existence proves that the journey to engineering mastery wasn't linear. It was a dance of risk and reverence where every mistake was a stepping stone to eternity. And buried under those fallen stones, we find the most human truth of all, that even the gods' houses were built one bold experiment at a time. Beneath the polished grandeur of Khufu's pyramid, the second tallest at Giza, lies a chamber that defies expectations. A rough, unfinished cavern carved directly into the bedrock, its walls jagged and uneven as if the workers downed tools mid-project. Unlike the precision-cut galleries above, this subterranean space feels raw, almost primal, with chisel marks frozen in time and piles of limestone chips left where they fell. The air here is thick with mystery and dust that hasn't stirred in millennia. When archaeologists first mapped the chamber in the early 20th century, they assumed it was an abandoned burial room, a false start before builders settled on the pyramid's higher sarcophagus chamber. Yet recent scans reveal puzzling details. Niches cut into the walls at precise intervals, their edges smoothed with a care that contradicts the room's otherwise crude appearance. Even stranger, the floor slopes slightly toward a central depression, its surface worn smooth, as if liquid, perhaps ritual offerings, once pooled there. The debate over this chamber's purpose splits experts into fierce camps. Some insist it was always meant to be a decoy, a psychological deterrent to tomb raiders. They point to similar unfinished chambers in other pyramids, spaces deliberately left rough to suggest the real treasures lay elsewhere. Others argue the room was repurposed, its original function forgotten even by the ancients. Traces of soot near the ceiling hint at torches being used centuries after construction, long after Khufu's cult had faded. Could this have been a secret meeting place for priests? A storage room for sacred texts later removed. The most compelling theory, though, ties the chamber to the pyramid's construction. Its location aligns perfectly with the descending passage above, as if it were a pivot point for aligning the entire monument. The niches might have held measuring tools or plumb bobs used to ensure the pyramid's perfect symmetry, and that worn depression in the floor, it matches descriptions of foundation rituals from later texts where builders poured libations to sanctify the ground before rising upward. Then there's the silence. Unlike Khafre's upper chambers, this space bears no inscriptions, no spells, not even a single graffiti mark. That absence speaks volumes. In a culture that documented everything from tax records to prayers, an empty chamber wasn't an oversight, it was a statement. Whether abandoned, repurposed, or never fully understood even by its creators, this subterranean vault reminds us that the pyramids weren't just tombs. They were living projects, evolving in ways we're only beginning to trace, one rough-hewn wall at a time. The Pyramid of Djedefre stands as a shattered crown atop the Abu Rawash Plateau, its ruined silhouette hinting at a reign cut short and secrets left unfinished. Hidden within its fractured core lies a chamber so damaged by time and fire that its original purpose teeters on the edge of speculation. Unlike the pristine galleries of Giza, this space is a battlefield of scorch marks and collapsed limestone, where the very walls seem to recoil from some ancient cataclysm. When archaeologists first breached the chamber in the early 1900s, they found not gold or artifacts, but layers of charcoal embedded in the stone, evidence of a conflagration so intense it vitrified portions of the ceiling, fusing sand into crude glass. What's baffling isn't just the fire's ferocity, but its timing. The burn patterns suggest flames roared through the chamber long after Djedefre's death, possibly centuries later during the tumultuous First Intermediate period. Yet the chamber's positioning tells another story. Unlike typical burial chambers, this one sits off-center, its axis skewed toward the rising sun at winter solstice, a feature seen in sun temples but never before in a pyramid. Scattered across the floor, fragments of red quartzite bear chisel marks identical to those found in solar sanctuaries dedicated to Ra, hinting this might have been a hybrid tomb temple, a radical departure from tradition. The real enigma lies in the artifacts that survived the inferno. Among the debris, excavators uncovered dozens of broken ceremonial bowls, each incised with the same cryptic glyph, a sun disk cradled in a pair of hands. This symbol, later linked to heretical solar cults, suggests Djedefre may have been experimenting with religious reforms too radical for his successors to tolerate. Historical records from neighboring sites describe a great purging by flame during the reign of his successor Menkaure. Could this chamber have been deliberately torched to erase a pharaoh's unorthodox legacy? Recent forensic archaeology adds fuel to the mystery. Soil samples reveal traces of natron, a salt used in mummification mixed with plant resins that would have burned like incense. This wasn't just arson, it was a ritual obliteration, a systematic dismantling of sacred space. Even the pyramid's exterior tells a story of deliberate destruction. The casing stones, prized for later construction, were left untouched while the inner chambers were ravaged, as if the attackers wanted only to erase what lay within. Yet amid the devastation, one discovery offers a glimmer of defiance. Beneath a collapsed wall, conservators found a single intact faience tile depicting Djedefre's Kartach, not in the traditional golden yellow of kingship, but in vibrant blue, the color of the heavens. It's a tiny clue, but a potent one. In a chamber meant to be forgotten, someone ensured the pharaoh's name still reached for the sky. And perhaps that's the ultimate irony of this hidden chamber. The fire meant to erase Djedefre's memory only etched his story deeper into the stone. Deep within the Pyramid of Menkaure, the smallest of Giza's legendary trio, archaeologists uncovered a chamber so inconspicuous that it had been overlooked for centuries. A shallow niche barely wider than a human arm span, tucked into the western wall of the main burial chamber. Unlike the grand galleries and imposing sarcophagi of its neighbors, this recess seemed almost accidental at first glance, a mere architectural afterthought. But when a conservator's flashlight caught the glint of something embedded in the niche's back wall, the truth emerged. This was no mistake. It was a deliberate hiding place, its secrets preserved in the quiet darkness for over 4,000 years. The first clue lay in the stone itself. The niche's interior was lined with a thin layer of gypsum plaster, an unusual choice for a space not meant to be seen. Embedded within it, researchers found fragments of a rare greywacke statue, a material reserved for royal portraiture depicting what appears to be the forearm of a deity, its clenched fist still gripping the remnants of a ceremonial staff. The carving style matches statues from Menkaura's Valley Temple, suggesting this fragment might have been part of a larger representation of the pharaoh alongside a god, perhaps Hathor or Horus. But why hide it here? The answer may lie in the organic residue found clinging to the statue's base, traces of beeswax and tree resin, substances used in rituals to animate cult statues, breathing symbolic life into them through sacred unguents. Then there's the niche's alignment. While most hidden chambers in pyramids prioritize celestial connections, this one points directly toward the setting sun during the autumn equinox, a time linked to the harvesting of grapes and the festival of the god Sokar, guardian of the necropolis. Scattered at the niche's threshold were carbonized grape seeds and fragments of a faience bowl, offerings typically associated with funerary feasts. This suggests the niche wasn't just storage, it was an active ritual space, a miniature chapel where priests could perform ceremonies long after Menkaura's burial. The most tantalizing detail, however, emerged under microscopic analysis. The plaster contained flecks of malachite and lapis lazuli, pigments so precious they were often reserved for depicting the afterlife. Infrared imaging revealed faint brushstrokes on the plaster's surface, ghostly outlines of a winged figure, possibly the goddess Mat, her feathers barely visible after millennia of dust accumulation. This wasn't just a hiding place for a broken statue, it was a sacred tableau, a snapshot of Menkaura's spiritual journey frozen in time. But the niche's greatest mystery might be what's missing. The statue fragment shows clean breakage patterns, as if it were deliberately snapped from a larger piece, a practice seen in killing rituals meant to release an object's spiritual essence. Was this a backup vessel for the pharaoh's car, hidden here as insurance against tomb robbers? Or evidence of a struggle during the pyramid's violation, when priests might have salvaged what they could from looters? The niche refuses to yield easy answers, but its very existence whispers a truth often drowned out by grander discoveries. Sometimes the smallest spaces hold the loudest echoes of the past. The Pyramid of Sahure, second ruler of Egypt's 5th dynasty, guards a ruinous secret in its crumbling heart, a grand gallery so magnificent in its original design that its collapse must have been catastrophic. Unlike the sturdy, weight-bearing corridors of earlier pyramids, this gallery was a masterpiece of aesthetic ambition. Its walls once adorned with vibrant reliefs depicting Sahure's naval expeditions to the Levant and the fantastical creatures of Punt. Scattered fragments of these carvings, recovered from the rubble, show cedar ships with sails billowing under painted stars and exotic animals like giraffes and baboons rendered in startling detail. But what remains today is a skeletal void, its ceiling slabs sheared clean off, their edges still bearing the telltale scrape marks of a sudden, violent failure. The disaster likely struck not long after construction. Geological surveys reveal that the gallery was built atop unstable bedrock, a fatal oversight for a space meant to awe with its soaring height. Engineers of Sahure's era were pushing boundaries, favoring grandeur over caution, evident in the gallery's unprecedented width, nearly double that of earlier pyramids. The walls, though collapsed, still bear traces of innovation, grooves for sliding wooden screens that could partition the space during rituals, and niches designed to hold oil lamps, their soot stains preserved like shadows on the stone. This wasn't just a passageway, it was a stage for the pharaoh's eternal performance, where light and shadow would have brought the carvings to life. Amid the wreckage, archaeologists found something extraordinary, a single intact frieze buried under fallen debris, showing Sahyor seated beneath a canopy of stars. The artistry here is a revelation. Unlike the rigid formality of 4th Dynasty reliefs, these figures pulse with movement. The pharaoh's fingers curl around a scepter as if mid-gesture, and the hieroglyphs above him twist like banners in a breeze. This stylistic shift hints at a cultural turning point where art began to prioritize narrative over symbolism. Even the palette broke tradition. Lapis blue and malachite green imported from Afghanistan and the Sinai, colors reserved for divine realms. The gallery's collapse may have been a turning point too. Sahyor's successors abandoned such ambitious interiors, reverting to simpler, sturdier designs. But hidden beneath the rubble, a clue endures: fragments of a quartzite offering table, inscribed with a plea to Osiris to make firm the steps of the king. It's a poignant artifact, blending piety with practical desperation, a prayer against the very collapse that came. Today, the gallery's ruins stand as a silent lesson in the perils of ambition, where even pharaohs learned that eternity demands more than beauty. It demands a foundation that won't falter. The Pyramid of Neferufer at Abusia stands as a stark monument to impermanence, a half-built shell of limestone blocks that never reached its intended height, its summit abruptly sheared off as if frozen mid-construction. Hidden beneath this truncated structure lies one of Egyptology's most poignant discoveries, a burial chamber cobbled together with startling urgency, its rough-hewn walls whispering of a pharaoh's reign cut brutally short. Unlike the polished galleries of Giza, this crypt feels raw, even desperate, with tool marks left unsmoothed and corners hastily squared. Yet within this unfinished space, archaeologists found something extraordinary: Neferufer's sarcophagus, still cradling the shattered remnants of his mummy, a rare intact burial from the crumbling 5th Dynasty. The chamber's very layout reveals a scramble against time. Originally designed as a storage magazine for construction materials, workers hastily repurposed the room when Neferufer died unexpectedly, likely before his 20th year. The walls, meant to be lined with granite, were left as bare limestone, and the ceiling, a single massive slab, shows cracks where weight was improperly distributed. Even the floor slopes unevenly, yet the sarcophagus sits perfectly level, proof that priests prioritized the pharaoh's eternal rest over architectural finesse. The coffin itself is a study in contradiction, its exterior carved with meticulous hieroglyphs proclaiming Neferufer's divine lineage, while the interior bears gouges from rushed chiseling, as if the craftsmen ran out of days to finish their work. Then there's the mummy. Forensic analysis revealed a young man barely past adolescence, his bones showing no signs of violence but bearing the subtle stunting of childhood illness. Fragments of resin-soaked linen clung to the ribs, mixed with traces of myrrh and cinnamon, luxury imports that confirm his royal status despite the chamber's roughness. Most haunting, though, were the remnants of a gilded mask pressed into the bandages, its mouth forever open in what Egyptians called the breath of life pose. This wasn't just a burial, it was a snapshot of grief where every hurried ritual screamed one truth: this king was not supposed to die yet. The crypt's inventory reads like a time capsule of interrupted legacy. Scattered around the sarcophagus were alabaster jars, their lids carved as lion heads, a symbol of power but left unfilled, suggesting the embalmers never collected the organs they were meant to hold. A stack of unused linen sheets, still folded, bore the seal of the royal workshops, while a half-painted Ushabti figurine lay abandoned mid-stroke, its eyes empty sockets waiting for a brush that never returned. Even the wall texts were incomplete. Spells meant to guide Neferufer through the afterlife trailed off mid-sentence, as if the scribes were dragged away mid-word. What makes this chamber so compelling isn't just its state of suspension, it's the window it offers into a dynasty unraveling. Neferefre's premature death coincided with Egypt's slide into political chaos, a time when pyramids grew smaller and resources stretched thin. His crypt, frozen between ambition and reality, becomes a metaphor for the Fifth Dynasty's decline. Yet amid the haste, there's reverence. Someone took care to align the sarcophagus with the northern stars, ensuring the young pharaoh's soul could still navigate the heavens. And in that quiet act of devotion, we glimpse the human hands behind the history, hands that, even in collapse, reached for eternity. Deep beneath the pyramid of Nusera at Abusia, archaeologists uncovered a passage that rewrites our understanding of pyramid design, a narrow, sloping corridor that doesn't lead to a burial chamber or storage room, but instead connects directly to a nearby solar temple dedicated to the god Ra. This isn't just an architectural quirk, it's a spiritual highway, a physical manifestation of the pharaoh's bond with the sun god. The corridor's walls, though worn by time, still bear faint traces of yellow ochre and gold leaf, pigments reserved for depictions of Ra's divine light. At certain points, the ceiling opens into small, strategically placed shafts, perfectly aligned to catch the sunrise at solstices, flooding the passage with beams that would have illuminated rituals in progress. The temple itself, once thought to be a separate ceremonial space, now appears to have been part of a unified cosmic machine. Scorch marks on the corridor's floor suggest processions carrying flaming torches or incense braziers, their smoke symbolically merging Nusera's mortal remains with Ra's eternal fire. Fragments of shattered sun disk ceremonial objects made of gilded wood were found scattered along the passage, each one ritually killed by deliberate breakage, a practice meant to release their spiritual essence. But the most revealing discovery lies at the corridor's midpoint, a hidden alcove containing a life-sized statue base carved with the pharaoh's titles and a single enigmatic glyph, a sun disk cradled within a pair of wings. This symbol, later associated with the goddess Isis, suggests a blending of solar and funerary cults centuries before such syncretism became common. The alcove's position is no accident. It marks the exact spot where the corridor intersects with the pyramid's north-south axis, a junction of earthly and celestial power. Recent thermal imaging revealed something even more startling. The walls here are thinner, their surfaces subtly curved to amplify sound. Chants or incantations spoken in this space would have reverberated unnaturally, creating an otherworldly echo. Combined with the solstice-aligned light effects, the corridor becomes less a passageway and more a sensory ritual device designed to transport participants or the pharaoh's spirit into Ra's presence. This hidden link between tomb and temple shatters the old assumption that pyramids were isolated monuments of death. They were living theaters of worship where the boundaries between king and god blurred with every ray of sunlight. And in Nusera's corridor, we find the quiet genius of ancient Egyptian spirituality, not just belief in the divine, but an insistence on walking, quite literally, in its light. The Pyramid of Pepi-Roman II harbors a shaft so steeped in ancient dread that even now, archaeologists speak of it in hushed tones, a narrow, downward-sloping passage lined not with gold or hieroglyphs, but with layer upon layer of execration texts, curses so potent they were meant to twist flesh and shatter bones. Unlike the protective spells of other pyramids, these inscriptions weren't carved for the pharaoh's benefit. They were weapons, etched to maim and terrify any intruder reckless enough to disturb Pepi's eternal slumber. The texts themselves are a masterclass in psychological warfare, blending visceral threats with supernatural precision. May his limbs burn like papyrus in flame, one passage hisses while another promises. His tongue shall cleave to his jaw as iron to a magnet. These weren't empty words. Forensic analysis of the shaft's walls revealed something unsettling: patches of blackened stone where the curses cluster most densely, as if subjected to intense heat. Some researchers suggest priests may have burned offerings here to activate the spells, filling the passage with smoke meant to carry the curses into the spiritual realm. But the true eeriness lies in the shaft's track record. Of the handful of explorers who attempted to descend it in the 19th century, journals recount sudden fevers, equipment failures, and one chilling account of a man who swore he heard whispers in a language older than Babylon. Modern excavators fared little better. In 1987, a robotic probe sent into the shaft malfunctioned inexplicably, its cameras flickering to static just as it reached a cluster of curses targeting the eyes of the greedy. Coincidence, perhaps, yet when the team switched to manual excavation, a worker slicing his hand on a carved glyph developed an infection resistant to antibiotics, echoing a curse that vowed to pour rot into the veins of trespassers. Even the shaft's alignment feels deliberate. It points directly toward Sirius, the star associated with Anubis, judge of the dead. Step inside and you're not just walking down a corridor. You're marching straight into the Jackal God's courtroom. What's most fascinating isn't the curse's malevolence, but their specificity. These texts don't just threaten generic harm, they anticipate. One passage warns of the one who comes bearing iron, a clear reference to tomb robbers' tools. Another targets the scribe who writes of what he sees, a jab at scholars documenting forbidden knowledge. It's as if Pepi's priests foresaw every possible threat across millennia and crafted countermeasures in stone. The sheer variety of curses, physical, psychological, even bureaucratic, one inscription vows to erase his name from all records, reveals a sophistication in magical thinking that modern minds struggle to pass. Were these spells purely symbolic, or did the ancients possess insights into psychology we've since forgotten? The answer might lie in the shaft's construction. The walls aren't smooth limestone but rough-hewn bedrock, left jagged to amplify echoes. Recite a curse here and your voice bounces back distorted, as if the words themselves are being twisted by unseen forces. Even the floor plays a role. It's subtly uneven, forcing intruders to stumble, fulfilling a curse that promises, "His feet shall betray him as a serpent betrays the sand." Every element, from acoustics to ergonomics, was weaponized. Today, the shaft remains sealed, not by stone but by respect. Those who have studied it agree, some chambers weren't meant to be opened. Because whether you believe in magic or not, Pepi's curses hold one undeniable power. They've kept his secrets safe for 4,000 years, and in archaeology, that's the only result that matters. Buried beneath the sands of Saqqara, the Pyramid of Merenna holds a treasure trove that defies expectations, not gold or jewels, but a sealed storage chamber crammed with the unglamorous yet invaluable artifacts of daily ritual. Unlike the grand galleries designed for eternity, this room was a working space, its walls lined with cedar shelves still bearing the imprints of countless ceramic jars, their contents long evaporated but their purpose preserved in residue. Analysis of these residues reads like a shopping list for the afterlife. Dried figs still clinging to the rims of offering bowls, traces of sacred oils infused with myrrh, even a peculiar blue stain later identified as powdered lapis lazuli, an imported luxury used to symbolize the night sky in funeral rites. The chamber's layout reveals a meticulous organizational system that mirrors temple storerooms of the period. Small alabaster labels, each inscribed with hieratic script, were found nestled between shelves. Incense of the first month, linen of pure hands, honey for the mouth opening. These weren't vague categories but precise inventories, suggesting that priests accessed this space regularly to replenish offerings. Most revealing is a stack of accountants' tablets tucked in one corner, recording the depletion of supplies over years, proof that Merenna's mortuary cult remained active long after his death, sustained by an almost bureaucratic devotion. Then there are the tools, bundles of reed brushes, their tips still stained with ink, lay beside palettes carved with hollows for mixing pigments. Evidence that scribes worked here, perhaps composing spells or updating ritual manuals. A set of copper knives, their edges carefully blunted, aligns with descriptions of the opening of the mouth ceremony, where tools were ritually dulled to symbolize their transition from practical use to sacred purpose. But the most haunting finds are the fragments of a broken mirror, its polished bronze surface scratched with deliberate marks. At first dismissed as damage, researchers realized these were hieroglyphs etched in haste, a plea to the goddess Hathor to make bright the face of the king. This wasn't trash, it was a votive offering, a scribe's private prayer folded into the machinery of state religion. What makes this chamber extraordinary isn't its grandeur, but its intimacy. The fingerprints of priests linger in the clay jar stoppers pressed shut with a thumb swirl. A child's sandal, tiny and worn at the heel, was found beneath a shelf, perhaps lost during a rare visit by a temple worker's family. These aren't the relics of a distant god-king, but of the living, breathing people who kept his memory alive. One measured handful of incense, one meticulously recorded offering at a time. The storage chamber's greatest revelation: eternity wasn't sustained by magic alone. It required logistics, labor, and the quiet dedication of those who would never see their names carved in stone. And in that unassuming room, we find a truth far more profound than any treasure. Immortality was a communal effort, built as much from figs and linen as from gold and spells. The Pyramid of Ibai stands as a humble footnote among Egypt's towering monuments, its crumbling form barely rising above the desert sands. Yet within its modest walls lies a chamber so small it defies logic, a cramped, cubbyhole-like space barely large enough to crouch in, let alone house a pharaoh's eternal remains. At just 3 feet wide and 4 feet long, this miniature vault seems better suited for a sacred relic than a royal burial. But scrape away the dust and the truth emerges. The walls are lined with fragments of a child's coffin, its cedar panels still bearing traces of cobalt blue paint and the faint outline of a tiny cartouche. What makes this chamber extraordinary isn't just its size, it's the precision of its construction. The ceiling is carved with a microcosm of the night sky, constellations etched in silver leaf so thin it flakes at a touch. Scattered across the floor, archaeologists found miniature alabaster jars, each no larger than a thimble, still cradling residue of embalming resins. These weren't symbolic offerings, they were functional, scaled-down versions of the full-sized tools used in adult mummification. The implication is staggering. Someone went to unparalleled lengths to adapt burial rites for a body that may have been less than 3 feet tall. Theories about whose remains once rested here range from the tragic to the enigmatic. Some scholars argue it was Ibai's heir, a prince who died in infancy, given a full pharaonic send-off despite his youth. Others point to fragments of a peculiar text found near the chamber's entrance, a spell mentioning the Ankh of the dwarf gods, a possible reference to Bes or Ta, deities associated with childbirth and protection. Could this have been a symbolic burial for a stillborn heir, meant to secure the dynasty's continuity in the afterlife? Then there's the chamber's hidden acoustics. Despite its size, the space amplifies certain frequencies unnaturally. Chants pitched at a child's vocal range resonate with eerie clarity, while deeper adult tones dissipate almost instantly, a design quirk that suggests rituals here were performed by or for the young. Even the chamber's orientation breaks tradition. Instead of aligning with celestial north, it faces east toward the rising sun at the spring equinox, a time linked to renewal and rebirth. The most poignant clue, though, lies in what wasn't found. Unlike royal tombs crammed with treasures, this chamber held only one intact object, a fist-sized lapis lazuli scarab, its underside inscribed not with a name but with a single hieroglyph, Ka, the symbol for life force. It's a whisper of a child who never grew old, a king who never ruled, and a chamber that challenges everything we thought we knew about who deserved eternity in ancient Egypt. Beneath the Pyramid of Kenja, a lesser-known Middle Kingdom pharaoh, lies a subterranean nightmare designed to baffle and ensnare, an underground maze filled with blind corridors, sheer drop-offs, and chambers that lead nowhere. This isn't just a tomb, it's a psychological warfare masterpiece, a labyrinth where every step could be a trap. When archaeologists first mapped the complex using ground-penetrating radar, they uncovered a network of rooms stacked like a sinister deck of cards, each one hiding secrets behind layers of deception. The entrance itself is a ruse, a grand, polished corridor that abruptly narrows into a claustrophobic tunnel barely wide enough to crawl through. Its walls lined with grooves that once held sliding stone blocks ready to seal intruders inside. What sets Kenja's pyramid apart is its sheer cunning. Unlike the straightforward burial chambers of earlier pharaohs, this complex is a hall of mirrors. One passage ends at what appears to be a burial chamber, complete with a sarcophagus-shaped niche, until you notice the floor is slightly uneven, suggesting the entire room tilts downward into a hidden pit. Scorch marks near the ceiling hint at torches flickering over a drop that would have been invisible in the dim light. Another corridor branches into 3 identical forks, each leading to circular chambers with identical false doors. The doors' carvings are flawless replicas of real ones found elsewhere in the pyramid, down to the hieroglyph spelling eternity, the only difference. These doors don't budge, their seams fused shut with molten copper, a final, mocking touch for anyone who wasted hours prying at them. The most chilling discovery, though, came from tiny artifacts scattered in the dust, fragments of rope, broken pottery, and even a rusted iron chisel from a much later era. These weren't left by builders, they were dropped by tomb raiders who fell for the pyramid's tricks. In one dead-end chamber, researchers found skeletal remains curled near a hole chiseled into the wall, a futile escape attempt. The victims' bones showed signs of dehydration, suggesting they'd survived the initial traps only to die slowly in the dark. Yet the real genius of Kenja's design lies in what isn't there. Scans reveal a void beneath the main maze, accessible only by a shaft hidden behind a pivot stone in the antechamber. This lower level holds the true burial vault, its walls lined with rare black granite believed to repel evil spirits. The sarcophagus, carved from a single block of quartzite, bears no markings, an intentional anonymity to foil would-be thieves. Even the air here feels different, dense with the scent of cedar resin used to seal the chamber for eternity. Kenja's pyramid doesn't just defend its secrets with brute force, it preys on human nature, greed, impatience, the desperate hope that the next door might be the right one. And in that, it succeeds where grander tombs failed, because the greatest trap of all isn't a pit or a false door. It's the illusion that treasure is ever easily won. The Pyramid of Ahmose at Abydos shatters every expectation of what a royal tomb should be. Its hidden chambers arranged not for the dead but for the living. Unlike the static burial vaults of older pyramids, this new kingdom structure conceals a series of interconnected rooms designed for active ritual use, their walls vibrating with the energy of ceremonies repeated for generations. Step inside, and the first thing you notice is the absence of a grand sarcophagus chamber. Instead, a central hall opens into smaller, intimate chapels, each dedicated to a different aspect of the pharaoh's legacy. One room holds an altar of polished basalt, its surface worn smooth by countless offerings, while another features a sunken pool lined with blue faience tiles, a symbolic conduit to the underworld's primordial waters. This architectural revolution reflects Ahmose's tumultuous reign. As the pharaoh who expelled the Hyksos invaders and reunified Egypt, he didn't just rebuild a kingdom, he reimagined kingship itself. His pyramid's chambers mirror this shift, blending traditional funerary rites with bold innovations. The walls, for instance, break from the standard pyramid texts, instead featuring vivid battle scenes interspersed with personal prayers. In one hidden niche, a carving shows Ahmose kneeling not before Osiris, but alongside his queen, Ahmose Nefertari, a rare depiction of marital partnership in a funerary context. Nearby, a narrow shaft descends to a subterranean chamber filled with broken weapons and chariot parts. likely relics from his campaigns ritually killed to accompany him spiritually. The most startling deviation lies in the pyramid's alignment. While Old Kingdom pyramids pointed to the circumpolar stars, Ahmos's corridors align with the Theban necropolis, symbolically linking his burial site to the new political heart of Egypt. Even the building materials speak to change. The core stones aren't local limestone, but sandstone blocks hauled from distant Jebel el-Silsila, stamped with quarry marks that reveal a military-style logistics network repurposed for construction. Yet the true genius of these chambers is their adaptability. Soot marks on the ceiling trace the path of torch processions over decades, proving rituals continued long after Ahmos's death. Scratches on door jambs indicate sliding panels were adjusted to control access, suggesting some rooms were sealed seasonally, like a temple's inner sanctum. This wasn't a tomb frozen in time, it was a living monument, its hidden spaces pulsing with the rhythm of memory and power. What Ahmos's pyramid teaches us isn't just about architecture, it's about reinvention. In these chambers, we see a pharaoh crafting his own eternity, bending tradition to serve a new vision of Egypt. And perhaps that's the most revolutionary secret of all, that even pyramids, those icons of permanence, could change with the times. The Pyramid of Hawara hides a secret that blurs the line between myth and archaeology, a network of submerged tunnels rumored to connect to the legendary labyrinth described by Herodotus. The Greek historian claimed this sprawling complex near the pyramid contained 3,000 rooms, half underground, designed to bewilder visitors with its winding passages. For centuries, scholars dismissed his account as exaggeration until modern surveys revealed something startling beneath Hawara's waters. The pyramid's burial chamber lies flooded year-round, its entrance guarded by a labyrinthine corridor that twists like a coiled serpent. Divers probing these dark channels found walls lined with the same geometric patterns described by Herodotus' chevrons and spirals etched into limestone, matching fragments excavated from the nearby labyrinth site. Even more compelling, the tunnels slope downward, extending beyond the pyramid's footprint toward the ruins of Amenemhat Roman III mortuary temple, the very structure Herodotus identified as the labyrinth's heart. Debate rages over whether these passages served spiritual or practical purposes. Some argue they were hydrological masterpieces, part of a vast water management system to control Nile floods, a theory supported by ancient engineering texts praising Amenemhat's taming of the waters. Others see darker symbolism. The tunnels align with constellations tied to Sobek, the crocodile god of chaos, suggesting initiates might have navigated them during rituals to symbolically conquer disorder. Herodotus' labyrinth may never be fully unearthed. Much of it lies beneath centuries of silt and modern farmland, but Hawara's hidden corridors offer tantalizing clues. During a drought in 2014, receding waters exposed a limestone slab carved with a rare depiction of the labyrinth's floor plan, a maze within a maze, its center marked by a solar disk. Whether it guided priests or simply awed visitors, one thing is clear: this wasn't just architecture, it was a riddle in stone daring us to unravel its secrets. The Pyramid of Amenemhat holds a secret that reveals just how deeply ancient engineers understood their environment, a hidden drainage system so advanced it functioned like a medieval moat, but designed to combat an invisible enemy. Deep beneath the limestone facade, a network of narrow channels snakes through the bedrock, their precise angles calculated to divert groundwater away from the pharaoh's burial chamber. This wasn't just passive construction, it was active flood defense, built to outsmart the Nile's unpredictable moods. Unlike later pyramids that relied on sheer elevation to stay dry, Amenemhat's architects confronted the water head-on, carving capillaries into the earth that would make modern hydrologists nod in respect. The system's elegance lies in its simplicity. Each channel slopes just enough to guide water downward, away from critical structural points, funneling it into a central sump lined with porous sandstone, a natural sponge soaking up moisture before it could threaten the chamber's integrity. Archaeologists found salt deposits along these channels, silent witnesses to centuries of unseen battles between stone and seepage. Even more impressive, the channels aren't uniform, wider near potential weak points, narrower where the bedrock was more stable. Their design reveals an intimate knowledge of local geology. This wasn't guesswork, it was hydroengineering honed through generations of trial and error. But the real stroke of genius lies in what the system doesn't do. Unlike crude attempts to simply block water, Amenemhat's designers worked with the environment. Scans show the channels connect to natural fissures in the bedrock, essentially hijacking pre-existing water pathways and redirecting them harmlessly outward. It's a strategy still used in modern flood control. Manage the flow, don't fight it. The crowning touch, a collection basin near the pyramid's base, disguised as a ritual washing chamber. Its floor, subtly cambered to prevent pooling, bears hieroglyphs praising Hapi, the Nile god, a divine cover for what was essentially a maintenance access point. Here, priests could monitor water levels during annual floods, blending practical vigilance with sacred theater. What makes this chamber extraordinary isn't just its functionality, but its philosophy. Amenemhat ruled during a dynasty plagued by droughts and erratic floods. His pyramid's hidden veins whisper a truth often lost in the grandeur of pharaonic monuments. The greatest tombs weren't just triumphs over death, but over the very elements that threatened to erase them. In these damp, unadorned passages, we find a legacy more enduring than gold. The foresight to know eternity requires more than strong walls. It demands an answer to the rain. Deep within the pyramid of Senusret-i-Lisht, archaeologists uncovered a chamber that rewrites our understanding of ancient astronomy. A circular room with walls covered in meticulously carved star charts, each constellation marked not just by position but by precise seasonal alignments. Unlike the decorative celestial ceilings of later tombs, these engravings show clear wear patterns around specific clusters, as if fingers or instruments traced them repeatedly over decades. The chamber's domed ceiling mimics the curve of the night sky, its surface divided into 36 Decan star groups the Egyptians used to track time in 10-day intervals. But what makes this space extraordinary isn't just its accuracy, it's the mechanism hidden beneath the floor. Beneath a removable limestone slab, researchers found a cylindrical well lined with polished black diorite, its base holding a thin layer of water that would have reflected moonlight or lamplight onto the ceiling's carvings. During the summer solstice, when the Nile's floodwaters peaked, sunlight entering through a narrow shaft in the eastern wall would strike the water at a precise angle, projecting an image of the dog star Sirius onto a specific decan. This wasn't passive observation, it was an interactive timekeeping device, allowing priests to predict annual floods and adjust ceremonial calendars with startling precision. The chamber's walls reveal layers of revisions, with some star positions recarved to account for subtle shifts in Earth's axis over centuries. Near the entrance, a palette still holds dried pigments, red ochre for marking celestial events, yellow orpiment for planetary transits, evidence that this was a working observatory, not just a symbolic tableau. Most intriguing are the marginal notes in hieratic script, recording discrepancies like Sirius delayed by 2 days or Mercury wanders from its path, proof that the Egyptians tracked and questioned cosmic irregularities long before Ptolemy. What emerges from these stones isn't just a calendar, but a philosophy. The chamber's design mirrors the Egyptian concept of time as both cyclical and fluid, marked by celestial events yet adaptable to earthly needs. In Senusret's star clock, we see the birth of empirical science hidden in plain sight beneath tons of limestone. And though the water has long evaporated, the echoes of its ripples still measure the distance between our world and theirs. Deep within the pyramid of Amenemhat II at Dosha, a team of conservators brushing dust from a seemingly blank corridor wall uncovered the slightest irregularity, a hairline crack tracing the outline of a hidden niche no larger than a breadbox. When carefully pried open, the space revealed a trove of treasures so meticulously packed that their gleam hadn't dimmed in nearly 4,000 years. Nestled in linen wrappings stained blue from oxidized copper lay a collection of gold jewelry, pectorals shaped like falcon wings, finger rings etched with the pharaoh's cartouche, and a collar of interwoven lotus blossoms so delicate they trembled at the touch. But the true showstopper was a ceremonial dagger, its blade forged from meteoritic iron, a material rarer than gold in the Middle Kingdom, and its hilt inlaid with lapis lazuli to mimic the night sky. What makes these finds extraordinary isn't just their opulence, but their context. This wasn't a royal burial stash. The niche was too small and too far from the main burial chamber. Instead, the arrangement suggests a ritual offering, possibly by Amenemhat's priests during the pyramid's consecration. The jewelry showed no signs of wear, each piece crafted solely for the afterlife, and the dagger's blade bore microscopic residues of myrrh, hinting it had been anointed, not wielded. Even the packing was symbolic. The linen bundles alternated direction in layers, mirroring the Egyptian belief in the duality of cosmic order. The craftsmanship reveals a society at its zenith. Scanning electron microscopy revealed the goldsmith used a technique called granulation, fusing tiny gold beads to surfaces without visible solder, a method thought to have been invented centuries later. The dagger's iron, analyzed through X-ray fluorescence, matched the composition of a meteorite found in Libya, proving Amenemhat's reach extended far beyond Egypt's borders. But the most poignant detail, a single strand of hair likely from a priest preserved in resin beside the collar, an accidental time capsule of the human hands behind these offerings. This niche wasn't just a hiding place, it was a snapshot of devotion frozen in time. The care taken to seal these objects, folded linen, beeswax seals, even a layer of natron salt to absorb moisture, speaks to a reverence that transcended practicality. These weren't just gifts for a pharaoh, they were safeguards for eternity, meant to bridge worlds. And in their silent brilliance, they remind us that the greatest treasures aren't always buried deepest. Sometimes they're tucked just out of sight, waiting for a patient hand to reveal them. Buried beneath the pyramid of Senusret Roman III at Dosha lies a chamber that shatters the peaceful image of the afterlife. A vault bristling with weapons, their blades still sharp enough to draw blood after 4,000 years. Unlike the typical funerary offerings of food, jewelry, or sacred texts, this space is an armory frozen in time. Battle axes with notched edges, curved kopish swords darkened by patina, and rows of slender arrows fletched with falcon feathers. The walls themselves tell a story of conflict, carved with scenes of soldiers marching in formation and fortress walls crumbling under siege. Yet the most haunting detail isn't the weapons, it's the absence of a sarcophagus. This wasn't a tomb for Senusret himself, but for something far more enigmatic. The sheer volume of weaponry suggests this chamber served a dual purpose. Some scholars argue it was a symbolic garrison, stocked to equip the pharaoh's spirit army in the afterlife. Hieroglyphs near the entrance describe Senusret as the Sword of Horus, and reliefs show him wearing the blue war crown, a rarity for a ruler more often depicted in the white crown of Upper Egypt. But there's a darker possibility. Tucked behind a stack of shields, archaeologists found a niche containing a single, child-sized cedar coffin. The bones inside belonged to a teenager with muscle attachments, suggesting years of archery practice, likely a royal guard or perhaps even a son sent to protect his father for eternity. X-rays revealed old fractures healed with precision, proof of access to elite medical care, while residue on the ribs matched the antiseptic frankincense used in military camps. What truly sets this chamber apart is its engineering. The floor is subtly sloped toward a central drain, a feature never before seen in pyramids. At first, researchers assumed it was for ritual purification, until they noticed the drain's copper lining was pocked with acidic corrosion. Tests identified traces of vinegar and saltpeter, ingredients for early gunpowder like combustibles described in later texts as the fire that cleanses rebellion. Was this space not just an armory but a testing ground for advanced weaponry? The theory gains weight from a ledger found nearby, its hieratic script listing 10 sacks of black powder from the Asiatic lands delivered during Senusret's reign. Yet the chamber's most poignant artifact is neither weapon nor record, but a simple limestone palette. Its surface holds dried pigments, red ochre for marking enemy positions, black charcoal for sketching fortifications, and the faint imprint of a thumb pressed into the corner as if its owner set it down mid-strategy. This wasn't just a storage room, it was a war college frozen in time where tactics and tradition collided. Senusret Roman III pyramid whispers a truth often drowned out by grander monuments: peace was never guaranteed. In this hidden armory, we see a pharaoh who ruled as much by the spear as by the crook, and who ensured his legacy and his protection would endure long after the sands claimed his empire. The weapons may have dulled, but their message remains sharp. Some kings built for eternity, but this one was ready to fight for it. Beneath the pyramid of Sogumsaf, a narrow tunnel snakes through the bedrock like a thief's whisper, dug not by modern archaeologists but by ancient looters who outwitted the pharaoh's defenses over 3,000 years ago. This isn't some haphazard hole, it's a masterclass in precision, with walls carved at angles that avoid structural weak points and ceilings shored up with wooden beams still bearing the marks of bronze tools. The tunnel's existence alone is a paradox, a testament to both the ingenuity of tomb robbers and the fatal flaws in the pyramid's design. What makes this passage extraordinary is its surgical accuracy. The robbers didn't brute force their way in, they studied. Their tunnel avoids the pyramid's main corridors entirely, instead targeting a single limestone block near the burial chamber's foundation, slightly weaker due to an air pocket in the mortar. This suggests inside knowledge, possibly from disgruntled laborers or bribed priests. Even the debris tells a story, chips of stone piled neatly to one side, as if the thieves worked methodically, minimizing noise that might attract guards. The tunnel's engineering reveals a dark mirror of the pyramid's own craftsmanship. At one turn, the ceiling suddenly dips, a deliberate choice to bypass a layer of quartzite harder than their tools could handle. Nearby, a vertical shaft connects to an air vent from the original construction, proving the robbers repurposed the pyramid's own infrastructure against it. Most chilling are the charcoal marks still visible on the wall's notations in hieratic script counting cubits to the treasure, like a criminal's grocery list scratched in stone. But the real revelation lies in what the tunnel didn't breach. A few feet short of the burial chamber, the passage veers sharply left, stopping at a recess filled with broken pottery and animal bones. Scattered among them are fragments of a faience ushabti, a figurine meant to serve the pharaoh in the afterlife, its face deliberately smashed. This wasn't just theft, it was symbolic violence, a ritual disarming of the tomb's spiritual defenses before the physical ones fell. The tunnel's legacy is twofold. For archaeologists, it's a blueprint of failure, exposing how even the mightiest monuments could be undone by human greed. For historians, it's a rare window into the shadow economy of ancient Egypt, where a skilled tunneler might earn more in one night than a farmer did in a lifetime. And perhaps that's the ultimate irony of Sogumsaf's pyramid. The thieves' handiwork endured longer than the pharaoh's glory, their tunnel now a permanent part of the archaeology they sought to plunder. Hidden along the western cliffs of Hawara, the Pyramid of Neferupta holds a secret that challenges everything we know about royal burials, a chamber so intimate in its symbolism that it feels more like a whispered conversation than a tomb. Unlike the grand sepulchres built for pharaohs, this space was designed for a princess, the daughter of Amenemhat III, and its decorations tell a story not of cosmic conquest but of tender guardianship. The walls, though weathered, still shimmer with scenes of Neferupta seated beneath a sycamore tree, its branches heavy with fruit, while goddesses pour liquid gold into her palms, a rare depiction of the afterlife as a place of nurture rather than dominion. What makes this chamber extraordinary isn't just its artistry, but its location. While Amenemhat Roman III pyramid looms nearby, Neferupta's burial was deliberately set apart, nestled into the desert like a hidden garden. Some scholars argue this separation reflects her status as a beloved but non-reigning heir. Others point to the chamber's alignment with the Nile's floodplain, suggesting it symbolized her role as a divine intermediary between the waters and the people. The ceiling, painted midnight blue and studded with silver stars, curves low over the sarcophagus, as if to cocoon her in the heavens' embrace. Then there are the rituals preserved in stone. Beneath layers of ochre and lapis, artists carved intricate scenes of daily offerings not by priests, but by women bearing baskets of figs and jars of milk. This wasn't the standardized pomp of state funerals, it was a portrait of personal devotion. Even the hieroglyphs soften here, eschewing the usual formal epithets for phrases like the sweet breath of a father's house and the one who made the palace bright. But the most telling clue lies in the chamber's hidden niche. Behind a sliding panel, excavators found a collection of ivory wands, each carved with protective deities usually reserved for childbirth magic. Their presence suggests Neferupta's burial wasn't just about death, it was a plea for rebirth. The niche's interior walls bear faint scratches, perhaps from frantic last-minute additions, as if those who sealed the chamber couldn't bear to let go. In the end, this secret vault isn't merely a tomb. It's a shattered mirror reflecting a pharaoh's grief, a civilization's hope, and the quiet truth that even in a world built for eternity, some hearts were too fragile for stone alone to carry. The Pyramid of Imhotep stands as a silent revolution in stone, its hidden chambers revealing engineering marvels so advanced they feel out of place in the timeline of ancient Egypt. Unlike the later pyramids that rose to geometric perfection, Imhotep's structure, buried beneath the sands of Saqqara, holds a maze of experimental spaces that blur the line between tomb and living laboratory. One chamber in particular defies all expectations, a hexagonal vault with walls angled at precisely 52 degrees, a design never repeated in any other pyramid. At first glance, the shape seems purely aesthetic, but follow the play of torchlight across its surfaces, and the genius reveals itself. Each wall reflects sound differently, creating an acoustic phenomenon where whispers spoken in one corner amplify into resonant chants at the opposite side. This wasn't just architecture, it was a sacred soundscape designed to transform human voices into something supernatural. Step deeper, and you'll find Imhotep's boldest gamble, a chamber built not from solid stone, but from layered limestone blocks separated by thin sheets of cedar. Modern scans show the gaps between stones are uniform, less than a finger's width, creating a shock-absorbing lattice that has kept the room intact for millennia while heavier structures crumbled around it. Some engineers believe this was an early attempt at seismic resilience, a way to outwit the unstable desert bedrock. Others argue the gaps served a ritual purpose, allowing air to circulate in precise patterns during ceremonies, carrying incense smoke through hidden channels in the walls. The truth might lie in the residue found clinging to those cedar strips, traces of copper sulfate, a substance known to repel insects and purify air, suggesting Imhotep fused practicality with spirituality in ways we're only beginning to decipher. The most startling discovery, though, lies beneath the floor. A vertical shaft drops 20 feet into a spherical chamber, its curvature so flawless it rivals modern precision engineering. At its center sits a tapered stone pillar, its tip hovering just inches above a depression filled with minuscule quartz crystals. When sunlight strikes the shaft's entrance during the summer solstice, the beam refracts through the crystals, projecting a shimmering constellation map onto the domed ceiling. This wasn't merely decorative, the alignment matches descriptions from early texts of a star clock. a device to calculate the shifting dates of religious festivals as Earth's axis slowly tilted over centuries. The implications are staggering. Imhotep might have been tracking celestial mechanics long before the Greeks coined the term astronomy. But the chamber's true legacy isn't in its innovations, it's in the fingerprints left behind. Along the edges of the cedar layers, archaeologists found smudges of red ochre, the same pigment used by laborers to mark stones during construction. These aren't random stains, they're tiny notations, measurements, and corrections scribbled mid-project. In one spot, a worker etched a frustrated hieratic symbol meaning "too tight" beside an adjustment arrow. Another scrawled a rough sketch of a star next to a corrected angle. These glimpses of problem-solving humanize the genius, reminding us that even Imhotep's brilliance was honed through trial, error, and the collective effort of countless unnamed hands. This pyramid doesn't just house the dead, it immortalizes the moment architecture leaped from function to philosophy. In its hidden chambers, we see the birth of columns as load-bearing supports, the first use of clerestory windows for light, even early prototypes of the arch. Every innovation later attributed to the Greeks or Romans has its seedling here, in rough limestone and cedar, waiting 4,000 years for us to recognize it. And perhaps that's Imhotep's greatest secret. He didn't just build a tomb, he built a blueprint for the future, one hidden chamber at a time. From the celestial shafts of the Great Pyramid to the flooded tunnels of Senusret's watery crypt, these 30 hidden chambers reveal a truth far more fascinating than any single discovery. Ancient Egypt's pyramids were never just tombs. They were cosmic blueprints, psychological labyrinths, and even revolutionary laboratories, each concealed space a deliberate stroke in a grand, millennia-long experiment. Consider the staggering diversity: ritual armories stocked for eternal war, starlit observatories tracking time's pulse, and tiny, heartbreaking chapels built for princes who never grew old. Some chambers were engineered to awe, like Imhotep's resonant soundscapes, while others were designed to terrify, like peppy Roman II cursed corridors whispering threats in the dark. And just when we think we've mapped the boundaries of their ingenuity, we stumble upon something like Amenemhat's hydraulic moat, a 4,000-year-old answer to a problem modern architects still grapple with today. Yet for every chamber uncovered, a dozen mysteries linger. Why did Djedefre's architects align his burial shaft with the winter solstice sun, then torch it centuries later? What sacred texts might still lie behind Teti's star-aligned plaster seals, their pigments untouched by time? Even the voids we've detected but can't yet reach, like that colossal space above the Queen's chamber, hint at realms beyond our grasp. The most tantalizing question of all: how many more are waiting, with ground-penetrating radar revealing anomalies beneath nearly every major pyramid, and untapped technologies like muon tomography peeling back deeper layers? We're standing on the brink of discoveries that could rewrite history once again. So here's where you come in. Look at the patterns: builders who replicated celestial maps in stone, priests who coded spells into acoustics, pharaohs who gambled on experimental designs. What might still lie hidden in the unexplored corners of these monuments? A chamber lined with lost scientific scrolls from Alexandria's precursor, a network of tunnels linking multiple pyramids like some ancient subway system. Or perhaps something no one's dared imagine yet. Drop your wildest theories below, because if there's one thing these 30 chambers prove, it's that the ancients were always 10 steps ahead. And the next great revelation might not come from a team of archaeologists, but from a viewer like you, connecting dots everyone else overlooked. The stones are still speaking. We just have to learn how to listen.